What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Buffalo Blueprint. I'm your host, Jake Steinhart, and tonight I got with me Don Steinhart, our social media manager here at Do, and we're going to be breaking down all of the Bills' picks, what's their strengths and weaknesses, how they fit going into this year, and what the Bills have left to accomplish in the offseason. So stick with us for another great episode of the Buffalo Blueprint.
Come on, man. Only on Do Champion Network.
Everything you need, nothing you don't. Some may like if you just won't. Everything you need, nothing you don't. Some may like if you just won't. Buffalo Blueprint for analytics and new shit. Check that in hand, mic in his hand. Welcome to the Buffalo Blueprint. Everything you need. Everything you need. Everything you need, nothing you don't. Some may like it if you just won't. Everything you need, nothing you don't. Some may like it if you just won't. Buffalo Blueprint for analytics and new shit. Jake pen in hand, mic in his hand. Welcome to the Buffalo Blueprint. Everything you need. Everything you need.
All right, quick message from our sponsors, and then we will get started.
For the best Italian food in Western New York, Elliot Apollo's, call 716-825-3675. The Lardon Construction Group.
Fubo TV, the official streaming service of Do Champions. FanDuel, the official sportsbook of Do Champions.
For all your summertime needs, beauty pools, as well as kayak pools.
CX Chronicles, your total customer solutions focused manager. W.GG, the official energy drink of Do Champions.
Hey, Sons of Erie, our artwork looks better on your walls. Hamburg Brewing, please visit our tap room on Boston State Road, Hamburg, New York. And finally,
Fat Boy Surf Club for all your surfing needs.
All right, Don. So it's the long anticipated wait between the end of the season and the NFL draft is finally over. We have finished the draft. The Bills ended up making 9 selections. They started with 10, but they ended up making 9. Overall, I thought we talked about that their main needs were corner, D tackle, D end, and wide receiver. And I think the only one that everyone is a little disappointed they didn't address is wide receiver, not until their last pick in the 7th round, pick 240. But otherwise, I thought you could tell the focus was defense and trying to get younger and faster and more depth in defense. So what overall was your thoughts on this draft class? I cannot hear you. Even though I could hear you a second ago. I still can't hear you. Nope. And it was working fine before the show, which is great. It's usually how things work. Nope. Of course, as soon as you go live, you get technical difficulties. I guess I'll roll on with the class until you get it figured out. But so first pick, they went corner, and I don't think that was too much of a shock for anybody. We'll deep dive into each one of the actual picks, and I'll give you a scouting report on each, and we'll talk about how they fit in to the team going forward. But overall, I don't think there was too many surprises with the first 3 picks going corner, D tackle, DN. I don't even think going D tackle again, double dipping there was too big of a shock. I do think the Bills were caught a little off guard with some of the picks in front of them. Even Brandon Beane himself said that they, but it didn't happen because teams in front of them made selections that took the receivers they wanted. I think that happened with Torrey Horton from Colorado State. I think that happened with Isaac Tesla with Detroit trading up in front of them. And maybe even with Matthew Golden going number 23 overall. I think the Bills got sniped a little bit, but overall, I think the class is really good, really athletic, and with a lot of upside. So um, let's dive into each one of the picks, and then we'll talk about them. So first up is Maxwell Hairston. Um, so Maxwell Hairston, he likes to be called Max, but he likes to see it written as Maxwell. From Kentucky, 6'1", 186. Says he wants to get up to the 195 range. He's an instinctive off zone corner. He showed really good route recognition, anticipatory skills, and really good at understanding how to pass off things in zone, and kind of read where the quarterback wants to go, and then he would break off his man and undercut routes. His 2023 tape was phenomenal. And then he dealt with a shoulder. I think he said it was an infection in his shoulder in 2024, and he sat out a bunch of games. And really, he said he shouldn't even have come back, but he didn't want to miss the rest of the season. And so you could tell in the tape that he just wasn't the same. Jamming was tough for him and press man, and then his tackling just wasn't nearly as good as it was in 2023. So you'll see a lot of the scouting reports say that he's a poor tackler, and I don't necessarily agree with that. I think if you're just going off his 2024 tape, especially when he came back late in the season, Texas, that tape, it definitely looks like he is not a good tackler. But if you go back and see some of his earlier tape in 2023, especially, he's really aggressive. He's a willing tackler, and he wants. There you go. You're back. So we're talking Maxwell Hairston. So he's a really aggressive, willing tackler. Yeah. He wants to make the tackles. And if anything, he's almost a little reckless and throws his body in there. So I don't necessarily think that's a huge concern. I think the upside is huge here, though. I think he can step in day one and be your CB2. He can run with anybody, especially if the Bills are asking him to play a lot of off zone and cover three where he's dropping deep and he's able to come forward. He's going to eat up so much space. So, you know, a lot of Bills fans, are complaining about some of the off coverage and how much cushion we give and stuff like that. Well, he's going to eat that cushion up really fast, and quarterbacks are going to have to be careful testing him, especially on the field side, so the wider side of the field. If he's playing over there and when it's a longer throw, he's going to jump those routes, man. He's going to make a lot of plays on the ball, which I think is really fun to see. He's got a lot of fluidity, a lot of burst. He can play press man too. So much like they do with Benford, I think they're going to have the ability to mix and match things and disguise coverage because he can really line up over guys and jam them at the line. And then he is not afraid to get beat. His makeup speed and his quickness is as good as anybody's. You saw against Texas, he was running with Isaiah Bond and even, running him down in recovery speed. So I think that's something we just haven't had, and I think it pairs well with Benford is Hairston's elite speed, and it's something we've really missed. We haven't really had that in this defense. So I think that's really fun, and then he has some inside-outside flexibility. Like he can line up and play in the slot some if he needs to, and I think you'll see him drop and play deep third, even a little bit of like safety when the Bills do some of their cover three and some of their deep alignments. So I really like this choice. It really gives the Bills more flexibility to disguise and run different coverages. So Don, what was your thoughts of the Hairston pick?
I think at first, like a lot of us, I think it felt like we were going to go Amos there. It's kind of the consensus pick. And I mean, Amos fell all the way. Did it end up being the third round or was it late second?
I think it was late second.
Late second.
I think a lot of that though was the fact that people didn't. They thought Hairston wouldn't be a Bills pick because of the tackling concerns.
But I think as I've dove more into some tape and just kind of how he plays, I'm not super concerned about the tackling. The biggest thing is how he's going to handle like the physical wide receivers. I think right off the bat, the team that would concern me would be Cincinnati. He probably gets matched up with Chase, Benford probably gets matched up with Higgins just because of the size differential between him and Higgins being more physical, even though Chase is super, super physical. Chase will outrun just about anybody. Harris at least has the ability to keep up with him. Outside of that, I mean, maybe Pittsburgh, but like I don't really consider Pittsburgh much of a contender at this moment. Now that they have Pickens and Metcalf is there now too, correct? So
Yeah,
I mean, they have some
yep.
physical wide receivers on the outside, but
I think he does.
I
I
think
think,
our-
they match up better with Kansas City too, with their
Right,
receivers who
right.
like to
Kansas
run.
City is the
Yeah.
team that I think we match up better with now, which like it's a punch counter punch kind of situation with them. I feel like they're always a step ahead and we're always countering them, but at the end of the day, I think that's kind of how the NFL is. It's always a catch-up game, and whoever's setting those trends, you're always trying to follow them. Thankfully we have MVP Josh Allen, who will always keep us in football games no matter what is really going on the defensive side of things. So I like the pick. I think the upside is through the roof. Like you can't really look at like the Trey White draft pick or the Elam draft pick because he's just a totally different type of player than both of those guys. So I think it'll just depend how he develops. I mean, maybe he puts on a few pounds. I don't know what he ended up.
He
weighing
talked
in
about. He
as.
said he was 186, but he says he's up to 193 now.
Right. Like I think if he sits at like 190, I was going to say 191, but like 193 or 196, like in that range, I think would be really good. And if it's muscle, like that's great. I think if he can continue to build up a little bit, I mean, he's not the oldest guy in the class, right? So
No.
I think the sky's the limit. I mean, does he become an all-pro type of cornerback? I don't know. It's pretty hard to have two on one team. Benford's certainly trending that way, but it's certainly possible.
It is interesting though, because it's definitely a departure from what the Bills have done as far as
Super different.
being in McDermott. Like usually they have one cornerback, CB1, and then they just kind of fill in that other one with whatever, right? Undrafted free agent
Until they got
6th round
Douglas.
pick. Right.
That was the difference.
And he wasn't even like an athletic guy, right?
Right.
Like this is like the first time that they've really invested heavily on another cornerback when they already have their CB1, and especially long term. So I think that's something that's exciting, and it's someone that has all the athleticism you could want, and is smart too in zone. Like that is the big thing
Super
here.
good
Like
in zone.
the where he's so much different than
Understands it.
Elam is he already is a really high level zone player. Where Elam was not at all. Elam was a very, very poor zone player coming out. So
If you watch the tape, you can see he's constant communication pre-snap,
yep,
good communication post-snap, understands where to be, when to be there.
yeah, and constantly is undercutting other routes
Right.
and breaking on the ball, and so I think it's really exciting. I think the turnover potential is huge too. I think that's something this defense needs, and
they need it
and that's what we
bad.
really liked from when Rasul first came last year. Or I guess I should say, 2023. He immediately came on the team and was turning the ball over. Then last year, he couldn't buy a turnover. So I think to be able to get some turnovers too, I think is really big. And I wouldn't be surprised to see some of those be pick sixes, man. When he gets the ball in his hand, he flies. He is so
when he-
fast, man.
If he can undercut,
God.
if he undercuts,
Jumps any routes,
jumps
yeah,
in under,
man.
he's gone. I think he had 2 or 3 pick sixes in college, and all of them were jumping curl routes or hitch routes.
Yep.
Immediately just took it to the house. There was no shot.
Yeah, so I'm super excited about that. Overall, really like the pick. I don't think it was too big of a shock, other than some people thinking the tackling would be an issue. But as far as like where he was taken, there's not really a big surprise there.
No, I think the
where he
biggest
went.
surprise. I don't think it was a surprise of where he was taken. I think it was when he was taken in comparison to the guys that were on the board at that time for the position.
I think he was the only one though that had the elite traits left, and the experience.
Well-
You had the guy from Iowa State, Porter.
Yeah, and Porter.
But-
I mean, you had Will Johnson on the board, but obviously
Yeah, but
the knee was a
knee-
serious problem for him.
Right. Right.
But
So
outside of him, it
and
was
then you had
pretty-
Benjamin Morris, who had the injury concerns as well. So the
Right.
only guy that was Trey Amos, and I just think the difference was athletically.
Yeah.
they wanted someone that had the athletic upside. So,
which was a trend for the draft as a
and
whole.
we
for
talked
them.
about that though. We
Yeah.
talked about that before the draft. Is we thought Amos was a little too much Benford and
Safe.
duplicative,
It would've
and
been a
not
safe
necessarily not necessarily bad. It doesn't give you options to line up differently, right? And so I think it was nice to see them go with an athletic corner who pairs well with Benford, and so Benford can be more your bigger body long guy to match up with big receivers, and then you can have Harrison match up with some of the speedier guys in the league because he can run with anybody. So.
Oh, for sure.
All right, let's get into the next pick. So next pick was the Bills trading up for TJ Sanders. They traded up from 52 to 41. Somehow they actually ended up getting, it depends what chart you look at, but plus value for the trade up.
Like 700 to 721, I think was
Yeah, so that was really rare. You don't normally see that.
for trading up now.
Yeah, so TJ Sanders, 6'4", 290. He says he's over 300 now, and he likes to play around 305. So we'll see what the Bills ask him to play at, but he did weigh in at 290. Productive 2-year starter in the SEC, mostly at 3-tech, but they moved him all over the place. Tall, long-limbed, smooth mover with good quickness and flexibility. He's really good in the run game, patient. He can two-gap if need be and hold the point of attack, but I wouldn't say he's necessarily like a
Not a
one-tech stout,
No.
right? Like I wouldn't ask him to man double teams all the time in the run game and stuff like that. That's not what he does. I think he's better when you actually ask him to penetrate and not two-gap, but he can do that. I'd much prefer him to shoot gaps with his long arms. He's really good at that. His arm length is on display to lock out blockers and locate the football. He does a really good job timing his block shedding and disengaging. He's really quick off the ball. His first step is really quick
So
for
fast.
his size.
Yeah.
He comes out low and he's got a really good bull rush. He keeps his feet moving. He's got good pass rush moves. He can cross the face really well. He's got a really nice swim move. He's got good balance and agility. He's got a really good motor and pursuit to down the line of scrimmage or in the lane. He's got good stamina as well. He gets his hands up to contest the throwing lanes. Some of the concerns I'd say is he gets his shoulders turned too easily at times. I think he wants to try to penetrate and get skinny in some of the
Turned
gaps.
outside, yeah.
Yeah, but when he
Especially-
does that, he gets pushed down the line.
Especially
pretty
against
easily.
double teams, like he'll try to
Yeah.
sidestep a double team or something. He just gets pushed out.
Yeah, and it almost looks like it's like a lazy rep where he just tries to like fit through the gap but doesn't want to
Just
use his
doesn't work
hands
out.
or finish the rep. Something definitely coachable. He struggles versus double teams though, holding the point attack. I think he needs to build more strength. He's got some dirty weight on him, and part of that I think will just be getting in the NFL. And he's still really young too, and so kind of growing some grown man muscles there will
He's
help.
Just a little over 21.7, so he's
Right.
not even 22 yet.
Exactly. And then the only other knock I got for him is he lacks some aggression and nasty. I think he wants to play finesse too much and athleticism. I think he knows he's quicker than the other guys that he's going against, and so he doesn't always want to just finish and play nasty. And so, again, part of that is it can be coached up. You saw that with Greg Rousseau early on. So hopefully some of that can be coached out of him. But yeah, those are some of the minor concerns. But overall, I mean, it's hard to find a guy this big that moves like that has the type of pass rush acumen that he has, and I think he brings a really cool skill set. I mean, him and Oliver next to each other is really exciting for the upside.
I think right off the bat, the thing that is most intriguing to me would be immediate third down passing plays,
Right.
With Groot, Ed, TJ, and a healthy Bosa is
Yeah.
a scary front four.
And it
right
brings
there.
in the waves too, right? Because
Right.
then you don't just have to have Ed on all the passing downs. When he was
Exactly.
getting up to 80+%, that's rough.
Super
And so
high for
I think
him.
TJ can do that a lot, and yeah, like we said, you can have them both on the field at the same time, but you also don't, and you can have them separate, and you're still getting interior pass rush. So, yeah, I really like the pick. I didn't really expect him to be in the Bills' range just because of where the Bills were picking, late first and then going, late second. I thought he was going to go somewhere where he did to the
where
Bills.
we took him, yeah.
Yeah, so I really like it though. we've wanted more pass rush and we've wanted more interior pass rush, and you can't just have Ed be the only guy creating interior pass rush. So
Right.
I think it's really nice to add another piece in there.
And to put a number to his pass rush win rate, it's always a mouthful for me, 12.6%. So 1 out of every 8 snaps, he's succeeding at a pass
And that's
rush,
really
which
that's
is
high
super
for
high for a
for
defensive
interior
tackle.
pass rusher.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
normally
super
that's
high.
around a good number is anything over 10.
10.
So
Yeah.
12.5% is really good. Yeah, that's a good call out. So yeah, I think this one shocked me a little just because I thought I'd hear some different names, but not necessarily like in a bad way. I was happy to see them be aggressive for a pass rushing guy. I mean, that's what we need is more pass rush. You can't
Right. And
have
at the
too
end,
much of that.
right. At the end of the day, I mean, like, I feel like we all caught ourselves calling for like a massive human, a one tech.
Yeah,
But at the end of the day, like, how many games were we really in where it was the opposing team's running offense that was
for
the
sure.
problem for us? It wasn't. It was getting the quarterback on passing downs. We just couldn't do it at all.
And I do understand the point. Like people want, someone to eat double teams on the interior on early downs and stuff to free up the linebackers to penetrate and make more
Right.
plays and make their job easier. I totally understand that. But again, if we're looking at where we failed, like you said, and where our weaknesses have been, in the games we've lost, it's been, not being able to close out games, not being able to get the pass rush, not, and coverage as well. And so, marrying those two together, getting faster in the secondary as well as getting, better pass rush on the D line. So you could see that was a major goal from this whole class.
Yeah, I'm on board. And I think we kind of addressed that little one tech issue we had, a couple picks down the road here. We'll get to him. Obviously a project type of player. But
yeah. All right, well we'll get
that.
to the next pick. Landon Jackson went to the Bills at pick 72, round 3. I had him as number 66 on my board, so I know some people had him possibly sneaking into the first round, and most people had him in the second round, not getting out of the second round. So I thought it was good value for the Bills as well to get him in the third round. 6'7", 280. He started out his career at LSU, transferred to Arkansas, played 3 years at Arkansas. Tall, long limbs, lines up a lot outside the tackles, but can reduce inside or play over the tackles. He's a really good run defender, holds the point of attack right away. He can handle some double teams. He sheds blocks in time. I think right away you could ask him to step in and play opposite Groot, and your run defense would be really
100%.
good. So I think that's exciting as well. He's already a better run defender on film, at least, than AJ is, who I think is a good run defender. His pass rush plan doesn't compromise the team run fits, which is nice to see. So what I mean by that is he doesn't just like sprint up the field and create big gaps. He's a disciplined rusher. Yeah, and that's really important, right? With in the NFL where there's a lot of draw plays and especially with the mobile quarterbacks where they can just run up on the inside gaps. He does have backside discipline, which is good to see as well. He's got some good lower body flexibility to bend back to the passer. Very active hands. I wouldn't say he's like a speed rusher that bends around the corner, but he kind of his hips are a little stiff for that, but he does show that he can get around the corner and kind of wall off the tackle or be strong enough so the tackle can't keep pushing him up the field. He's able to flatten and get right to the quarterback. So that's kind of what I mean by that lower body. He's able to be strong enough to flatten and get to the quarterback.
He finishes really well.
He finishes really well. Yeah,
super good.
He's got counters when his first move doesn't work. His hand spin move work really well. His speed rush sets up the inside moves. His motor doesn't stop, and like you said, he can clean up sacks really well. Like when he's got an open lane, he closes a lot of ground. I'd say the knocks on him would be his pad level gets too high.
100. I mean,
And,
it's
and
6'7",
a lot of that
it's
is
almost expected.
exactly a lot
Right.
of that is the height, and then his snap timing is inconsistent. I think he really needs to
Slow.
work on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a lack of speed. It's just he doesn't anticipate the snap well.
Right. There's a chance he's the last guy off the line.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. I saw that way too often, and again, that is very coachable. I think if he can get consistent snap timing, that'll really help him. And he needs to get functionally stronger. Most guys coming out of college do, but I think that would really help him. And then I think he could get a little leaner and get a little better body composition to him, and I think that'll help. Like he just needs to fill out better body wise, but really good athlete. And I think it depends on what the Bills want him to play at weight wise, because you can see at certain times he puts on weight, and then other times he's played a lot lighter. So again, it'll just be where the Bills feel comfortable with him. But I think it's really exciting to get a guy like him in the third round with the traits he has, and I think he can come in, step right away, and be your DN3 essentially, and can play early downs or late downs.
Yeah, I think he's the guy that's probably going to get a lot more work from a rookie standpoint. I could be wrong. He might get a lot more looks until we get Hoyt back.
Yeah.
I think he's the type of – he might just end up getting more
For sure.
snaps through the first 6 weeks, and then
I think
might not
also
see him.
it's also Bosa too, right? You don't
Right.
want to give Bosa a bunch of
Too many
reps that you don't
snaps,
need to.
right.
So I think this really helps with that, and then AJ as well. Like I think this prevents AJ from having to get a bunch of reps, because you
Right.
saw the more reps AJ gets, essentially
the
the
less
worse he
effective
gets, the
is.
the less effective.
It's weird.
Really injury prone too with him
Yeah.
too. So I think if you can keep AJ fresh, that only helps, because you definitely see the flashes.
Yeah. I like it though. Like the upside is there. The sky. I don't want to say the sky's the limit, because there's probably some limitations to his game. Just
Yeah,
given
the
his-
flex, the hip tightness, I think is his
like his
major
size.
limitation.
His size
Yeah.
definitely limits kind of his. I don't want to say ability, but maybe like his position versatility. But otherwise, I mean, like he could make an impact on special teams too. At his height. So I think there's a spot for him right away.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I
Yeah.
could easily see him getting 40%
Right.
snaps plus, starting out, and who knows where that goes. So I really like the value. I like the pick, and I never get mad about more defensive line. I mean, you can never have too many.
No.
So I really liked it. All right, next up, Deion Walker. Controversial Deion Walker. There's some people who said they didn't want him at all. I think part of it is you need to understand the value they got with where they took him. So you're talking pick 109. And then what he showed on tape, especially early on in his career. So he's a 3-year SEC starter, lots of experience, but last year he played with a fractured back, and that really affected even how they aligned him. They lined him up out wide a lot, and I think a lot of that was to kind of protect his back so he's not taking double teams and really having to anchor in the middle. And so people did not like his tape last year versus the previous 2 years, where you saw some flashes of some really, really elite traits. So 6'6", 345, but he's not just a one tech because of his athleticism and burst. He can play 3 tech, and then they align him a lot outside the tackles. I wouldn't do that in the pros. I'd keep him as a 3 tech. Or a 1 tech, and move him around a little inside. But for his size, he's got some really, really elite explosion and get off. Motor and activity for his size are really plus. In the run game, he holds the point of attack, but again, I wouldn't ask him to eat double teams yet. His length really shines, though, in locking out blockers and disengaging. He's got really heavy active hands, though. Works hard as a pass rusher, good bull rush, and then he's got a really good swim move off the bull rush. He demands attention, though. Like, guards are scared of him. Like, he is so quick and so big. They got to help him, man. He gets double teamed a lot because of that. He gets his hands up, though, to clog passing lanes when he can't get to the passer. I think the things that he needs to work on would be he's got to get stronger. I think he needs to work on his body, as you can see in the picture. A lot of his weight's in the lower midsection. He's got like that baby fat. Like he's just not he doesn't have that grown man strength yet. And I think some of that is just getting in an NFL locker room, nutrition, things like that. But I think if he can get a lot stronger, that'll really help him because he's already got it with his hands and his arms, but he just needs to get like in his core, like functionally stronger. His pad level though gets way too high. And a lot of that again is for these taller
Height,
defensive
yeah.
linemen. It's really hard. But that's something you can work on. His shoulders don't stay squared on the line of scrimmage, though, and he can get pushed around. And again, that's something that's coachable and will come with some more functional strength. And then I think he can get out of control and out leveraged because he just is so explosive and wants to get upfield. So I think he just needs to work on his pass rush plan a little bit and have some counters and do some other things than just trying to explode upfield as fast as possible. And then when that doesn't work, his only other move is like a swim move. I think he just needs some other moves in there. But man, like we're talking like elite, high level, like very rare traits and ability. Like he shows these flashes on tape that are like elite. I mean, we're talking like Chris Jones, DeMarcus Lawrence type elite traits. Like you can't teach this size and arm length and explosion. Like they're just natural gifts, and it's just can you get all of it out of them, and can you, maximize his potential. But I mean, we're talking like perennial all pro level potential. Now he's far away from that right now. But like for where they got him, I think it's exciting. It's just he's got to get a lot of work to get there. And part of that I think is just getting healthy and getting stronger. I think when you have a back injury like that, a fractured vertebrae, I think that also affects you in the weight room and being able to lift and things like that. And so we'll see, man. I think they obviously liked him. I haven't heard anything bad about like his character or anything like that. If anything, I've heard only good things. So I think you get him in the building, get him stronger, get him coached up, and the sky's the limit with him. I think it's a really exciting pick, especially where they got him.
Yeah, I think this continued the trend of the super high upside. All four of these first round pick, or all four of the first four guys we took in this draft were super high upside, traitsy guys. I mean, that's kind of been the trend for this regime pretty much since they took Josh Allen back in the day, right? Like it's always been these super high upside traits type of guys that they think that they can coach into the player that they want them to be. Whether they're able to do that or not is, totally different. But
the floor I think for him would be like Jordan Phillips would be like worst case scenario if he just didn't get any stronger. And I don't mean that
I don't
like
even
negatively.
I don't know. Jordan Phillips is a pretty good player. Like,
right. And I'm just saying, like if you hit on him, I think the floor would be Jordan Phillips.
Right.
But I think his ceiling is extremely elite. He's got to get more well-rounded as a player, right? And that's kind of what I mean.
If he develops and he doesn't become like the elite player, I agree his floor could be like Jordan Phillips. But on the other side of things, I also agree that if he does develop into that elite talent, like that he's shown or flashed from time to time.
Yeah, if he turns into a monster, man, jeez.
By all means.
All right, so next up is waited for a while. We went from 109 to 170, round 5, 170. We went with Jordan Hancock, a player I liked being an Ohio State alum and fan. I got to watch him quite a bit. He's an interesting piece. Like I kind of want to see what their plan is for him. 6 foot, 195. I wrote he's a versatile defensive back at both nickel and safety. Some experience outside, solid build, and he improved on his run defense each year. Physical player, sufficient length and impressive tested athleticism. He's good in press coverage and tackling, but he's got room to grow in coverage. He gives up too much space. He kind of loses track of routes. I don't think he really like recognizes and reads routes very well. Like he just lacks those instincts. He doesn't anticipate breaks very well, so he's kind of chasing a lot. And he just needs to work on limiting that space and proactively disrupting wide receivers too. He's not very good at like disrupting their timing. And then the other piece is like he's not a major special teams contributor. He's got 100 career special teams reps, so it's not like foreign to him. But I think if he's going to make the roster and play, that's where he's going to have to excel at. He's kind of similar to like a Saron Neal type of player, Cam Lewis. Can he find a role, a little
Right.
tweener, situational type player, but a good athlete, plus size, and a good experience. So we'll see what they can kind of mold him into.
Yeah, I mean, I like the versatility that you can get out of him. He could play safety at the end of the day. He could play down in the nickel. Um, I think the issues with him are like if you watch some of the tape, he's a little bit slow to follow in zone, and then like he's not the fastest guy in the field by any means. So like if you're in man coverage with him and he gets beat, like he's probably not catching up to you. He's just not that guy. So I think maybe he develops into a solid role player. Like could they? Anybody can end up playing special teams.
Right.
It's whether they want to play special teams or not. Some guys just don't want to, and then they're not in the league much longer after that once they get, if that's what they decide to do. But the Bills don't really they haven't really filled that Saron Neal role,
Right.
Since he left.
He's a good athlete too. Like,
Yeah.
good athlete,
So-
good size. So I
mean, he
could
played
definitely
it-
see that.
Played in a good program, so it's not like he's, going against scrubs out there. So I think I don't want to
They
say
have
there's
to
not,
have an idea for him though, because
right.
I mean, if anything, I would call this a little bit of a reach. I kind of had him as like a sixth, seventh round guy.
Yeah.
But it's not that I didn't like him. I don't profile him as a starter. He's developmental, but they have to have a vision for him. Maybe special teams wise, I'm not sure.
Maybe it is like nickel. Maybe it is to back up.
Yeah,
Taryn.
backup nickel for sure. Yeah,
Taryn didn't exactly stay healthy all year last year.
yeah.
And
definitely
you
possible.
could tell we were getting thin at corner, and then at safety, Cam Lewis was bouncing all around last year. So
I don't mind the swings either, right? We've seen them
Right.
identify these guys and find them and develop them. So
Benford.
I don't mind swings at DB, especially with how expensive even slots are getting. So I don't mind them taking extra swings here. And, they did it again later with
Yeah, they
another
do it
guy
later.
that we really liked. We talked about him being a double
we did.
dip candidate.
I liked him.
Yeah. So
Where they
let's
got him was great.
we'll dive right in. Let's go to Haas first though.
Yeah, we'll talk about Haas.
So Jackson Haas, he went next, round 5, 173. I think he's just a plug and play tight end 3 for the Bills. He's going to be their Lee Smith guy. 6'5", 260,
Jumbo
brings the
package.
nasty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he wants to hurt people in the best
if you
way
watch his
possible.
tape, man. If
Yeah.
you watch his tape, it's fun to watch.
It is fun, man. Strong blocker in line, good pass protection as well. He's one of the best blocking tight ends in the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Alignment versatility. They motion him around. They'll bring him from attached to the end of the line of scrimmage. They'll bring him into the backfield and vice versa. And he's effective either way. Very functionally powerful. He can reset the line of scrimmage with consistency. He's not a dynamic athlete, though. And he does not have soft hands. His hands are not consistent. He fights the ball. He's not a good lateral athlete either. He struggles to adjust quickly to lateral movement. He projects as a plus course phase, all phase special teamer, and
Right.
elite blocking tight end. And I think he gives them a little bit of flexibility. We know how much they like to use Alec Anderson as a 6 tight end. They like to run 2 tight end sets and 3 tight end sets. And I think this just gives them the ability to put a player in there who can still run a flat route.
He's the type of guy who
catch
can
a pass.
sneak out behind the line.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the difference with him and Alec Anderson. As much as Alec Anderson is a good blocker, and I think this gives them the ability to just do a little different things, little different packages, and I really like the move. It also allows you to not have to use Kincaid so much in some of the 2 tight end sets, and you can use Knox and Hawes now and be really tough. I mean, he's elite blocker. I mean, Knox is a good blocker. Jackson is elite blocker. So I think it fits what they've wanted to do, and it's a plug and play, tight end 3 right off the rip. So, to be able to get that late 5th round, I think is nice, and to lock that in. As well as we talk about, special teams and, investing in that as well. Like he's a core special teamer as well. So I think that is
Yeah, I
nice.
think
Both coverage units he'll be on. So
I think that the one thing you didn't say that I think is he's also going to fill that Quentin Morris role that I don't think Quentin Morris is coming back at this point with this pick.
right.
You know,
Yep.
I think that he's still out there,
Yep.
but it wasn't like the Bills. I don't know what exactly went down in the conversations between him and the Bills, but I
It
felt
could just be a roster spot where you want to get
Right.
better, and,
Get
and not a
younger,
knock
get
on
better.
Quentin Morris.
No, good
These are
player.
different types of players, right? Jackson's a lot bigger, a lot
Yeah.
better blocker, and Morris, boy, he developed into a good player, right? Solid
Right.
player, good blocker.
Good special teams
He made some
player.
clutch catches. Yeah, just. These are different bodies, different types
Yeah.
of player, and it could just be schematically, you're tying up a roster spot, and so maybe they just wanted to go
Right.
a little bit different direction. So I really like this pick. I think it makes a lot of sense. We said they needed to get a tight end at some point, and this one makes sense because you don't really need a pass catching, tight end or specialist
No,
here.
I have
You
two
really
of
need a
those.
guy like him, a people mover. So. And I want someone who brings the nasty too, right? Like Alec Anderson does. You want someone who's going to come in and, and want to displace people and hurt some people. So I liked it from that point as well.
Yeah, I'm on board. I don't think there's too much to this. I think there's a clear vision, right? Like I think most of us see it for what his
Yeah.
role is going to be, and I'm kind of excited to see what kind of packages they draw up with him.
I agree. All right. Next up, we kind of hinted at it, is Dorian Strong. Bills went with him in round 6, pick 177. We had talked about double dip candidates at cornerback, and he was definitely one of them that fit the Bills well. 6 foot, 179. He excels in zone coverage, physical at the catch point, really good job at capping routes. He's got good eyes and instincts. He excels in cover 3 as the deep third defender. In man, he's best as press man coverage. He's not good at off man. He leverages the trail technique well. He's got good eye discipline. He's got a really nice ability to anticipate and undercut passes in the quick game. Run defense is good near the line of scrimmage. He's a good chase down effort player. I think where he needs to get better is he lacks strength shedding blocks. He needs to get stronger and be more aggressive in run defense. He lacks hip fluidity for sudden direction changes, and that's kind of where he struggles in off-man coverage. And I wrote he's best as a developmental outside corner playing off-zone coverage for now, and I think that's exactly how the Bills would use him. Kind of similar to like a Dane Jackson, but a little, better athlete, I think. But
I
similar.
almost feel like, as you're going through that, the more and more you talk about him, it's kind of like, it almost feels like a young Benford when Benford just came in.
Yeah.
And it was like,
Yeah.
He's got the size. He's somewhat physical. Wasn't really an off zone or off man coverage kind of guy, just because he doesn't have the makeup speed for it. I don't think could he develop into the next Benford? I mean, by all means, that'd be awesome if he did. But
He's not the athlete that Benford
he's not
is.
the
That's
same
the only issue.
athlete, right? And
I mean,
and
he
to
ran
hit-
a 4.5, so it's not like
right, and to hit 2 6th-round picks, that's almost
Right.
that's unreal. That generally doesn't happen. But
his arms aren't as long as
right,
Benford's
Benford's
either.
super
So
long guy. Yeah.
yeah, but
Not saying he's
I'd
gonna
kind of
be-
equate him more to like he's your ideal CB3 as
He's
far
Dane.
as like
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
Dane
yeah,
is a good comparison.
I'd give him a little more plus than Dane as far as athlete. I think he runs a little better, but yeah, I think that's your goal, right? If you can get a guy who can come in and play, he's not going to give you the same versatility, but can come in and play zone well and be aggressive, and then special teams. So he was a captain as well, a good leader, and so
Yeah,
I think
good
he fits
pedigree.
well. We had talked about again like the double dip with a guy who has a high floor and
It's
constantly.
funny because it's funny we talked about a double dip. They kind of triple dipped. I mean, yeah,
No, they did it in the secondary
Right.
for sure, and
right,
I think part of that is to a response to the Kansas City game and how the season ended, right? Like
yeah.
they could not line up and cover at all in man coverage.
I mean, we
Um,
added 5 defensive backs now, since the season has ended.
Yep.
Two
Yeah, and you let
guys
them
that
all
are
duke it
back,
out.
but-
You let them
right,
all
and just
duke it
see
out.
who
See
wins.
where Trey White is, right? see where Dane stacks up with these
We
three
talked
guys.
about Trey last week too, like, or was it last week or the week before? I think it was with Chase when we had talked about
Yeah, it was last week.
Trey. Like, Trey looked a lot better when he went to Baltimore. I'm not saying he's the same player he was when he left Buffalo or before he got hurt, but Achilles injury, ACL injury, coming back for those aren't easy. It could take 2-3 years, and now he's almost 30, but like, he's probably got some juice left in the tank. It's not like Trey was ever an elite tackler by any means. He forced turnovers, made big plays, and was always sound in coverage. So if we can get, 75% of what he was, that'd be phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, what they paid him, it doesn't necessarily mean
Right,
they're going to
doesn't
make the
necessarily
roster.
matter.
So
Right.
we'll see. Bring them all in. Let them, best man win. So a little bit of news in the NFL. The Panthers have agreed to terms with
Hunter Renfrow.
former Raiders wide receiver Hunter Renfrow. Yep. So
I was always surprised the Bills never took a stab at him after Beasley left.
yeah,
Yes,
I
it was
agree.
kind of different
Could have been a money thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, next up, round 6, pick 206, Chase Lunt. I had said that they were going to take offensive tackle or offensive lineman at some point. I always want to swing every year, just get guys in. You can always trade if you have too many, but man, is it always good to have offensive linemen in the hopper and developing them. I think this is another one that Cromer can get his hands on, and I would not be surprised if he's a starting caliber offensive lineman. So I wrote he's 6'6", 295, 4-year starter with nearly 3,000 snaps at right tackle. He excels as an outside zone blocker with elite range, quickness, and lateral mobility. He effectively climbs the second level and cuts off linebackers. His pass pro is high-level lateral quickness and mobility in pass sets. He protects the edge against speed rushers with a firm two-handed punch. I think his negatives are he'll have to work on varying hand usage. Using that two-handed punch is great when he lands it, but it leaves you really vulnerable to inside counters and long arm rushers. So he's going to have to work on that. That's right up Cromer's alley. He has high hips and struggles to anchor against power. That's another thing he'll have to get better at. He needs to add power and weight, but the athleticism that he has is pretty elite. I think it makes him a viable starter, especially in a zone-heavy offense. So it's a great athletic guy to get in the building and see what Cromer can get out of him.
Yeah. We talked about it earlier, like you said, that we were going to take a stab at a lineman late in the draft. I think we did. I wanted to make a correction. NFL.com has him listed at 6'7" and a half. So he is a large human. Might be the only guy on the team that could probably, stand next to Spencer Brown and not look like a small human.
Yeah, you're right. Combine has him at 6'7" and
a half.
4. Yeah, 6'7" and 4. So 304.
So super large guy. I kind of see played right tackle. I did see that his arms are a little bit shorter than most, so he could potentially
32
struggle.
and 6'3". Yep.
Yeah, so could potentially struggle at tackle, but arm length isn't becoming as much of an issue in the NFL anymore.
Right.
Defensive ends and defensive tackles, you're not getting these super. I mean, there are always the super long armed guys, but it's not as important as it used to be. 10 years ago.
Guys are playing lighter at the edge.
Right. So I don't see that too much of an issue. I think his upside could potentially be a plug and play guy down the road. But I think in the meantime, Spencer Brown backup, a year or two from now, that I think that's right in the realm of possibilities with anything Cromer can do.
Yeah, and they'll cross train him too.
Right.
He's a little tall to be a guard, but they'll definitely plug him in there and
Right.
see. They always do. So we'll see. But like I said, I always like swings in the trenches, and you can't have too many, right? If you get
Exactly.
into camp and towards the end of camp, and you realize you have too many that you like, you trade them for picks, and we've seen Bean do that a couple times. So
Yep.
all right, final pick is round 7, pick 240, Caden Prather. Like we kind of hinted at a little bit, that, and Bean had said in his presser, they wanted to go wide receiver. He was shocked that they'd got to this far in the draft and hadn't taken one. I think they tried a couple times earlier and they got sniped out from under them early. We can kind of talk about a couple of those scenarios
Yeah.
after this, but They eventually got Caden Prather in the 7th round. We'll see if he sticks on the roster. I kind of see what they were looking at, but it's going to be tough. He's 6'3", 208, so big-bodied wide receiver. He ran a 4.46, so he's got some good speed, but a lot of it is long speed. He's a long strider. He's not very quick. He's only got a 30-inch vertical, which I thought was kind of crazy. You don't see that short of a vertical very often. I wrote he's got a limited route tree. He's pretty much stuck to only basic routes. He's got a really limited release package as well. Large-bodied, long strider with physicality. He does get down the field, though, with that 4.46 speed. Once he gets up to speed, he does run away from some guys. He's not a 50-50 guy, though, and a lot of that, I think, is due to his short vertical. He is good in congested areas, though. He uses his big frame and physicality to win instead of necessarily his vertical. He's not a separator, though. He lacks short area quickness to separate. He's not a slot player either. He does not do well in there. He's exclusively an outside, an X receiver, not someone with speed. He's kind of redundant with what you have with Keon Coleman, but he could be like a Keon Coleman backup, essentially. He does have good power, though, to bully press coverage, and he has the potential to be a plus blocker. And I said his long speed does show up on tape. Special teams will need to be where he excels if he wants to make the roster.
Yeah, I think his best case scenario is like he's Gabe Davis, and I think right now he's just poor man's Gabe Davis, without the blocking that Gabe Davis came into the NFL with.
Yeah.
Size, speed wise, he kind of matches up. He's a long.
I think that would be like his home run,
right?
Upside, right?
Right, like home run upside is Gabe Davis. That's it.
Yeah. Which for a 7th round pick would be phenomenal.
Sure, right? You get a couple. I think he is the backup to the backup of Keon Coleman at this point. I don't even think he's the backup because I think we have.
Do you even have? I was saying, do you even have a backup to Keon Coleman?
I mean, you could. Shavers is kind of developing. You don't know what we could get out of him.
Yeah, but he's not he's not who you want to bring.
No. But I think that Prather is behind Shavers.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, I think this opens up a pretty big discussion to like, are the Bills going to make a move at wide receiver? Because right now they're 4 wide receivers, and now Prather as their 5th wide receiver leaves something to be desired.
I know there's a lot of controversy surrounding him, but do you think there's a chance we go and get a guy like Isaiah Bond who went undrafted?
I don't think so there. Although, I think the fit would make sense, but no, I don't think so. But they need that kind of player. They need someone with vertical speed, or just someone who can legit line up outside like Amari Cooper and just at least, do something on the outside. I think that's kind of my concern is.
And I think that now that the draft is over and we really did. I mean, you said that Bean addressed it, and he did, which was like they tried to get a wide receiver, it just didn't fall the way they wanted to.
Yeah, we can look at that real quick.
Right, that's probably what Amari Cooper was sitting around waiting for, was to see like what happened.
Let's see. So we won't go. So I'm into round 2, right? So, let's see. Yeah, you mess with that.
Yeah, I'll bring us in here.
Got to put our border back on.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Let's see.
There we go.
So we took Landon Jackson at 72. So let's see what happened around 72. Because I think the couple times they got sniped. So I think at 70 is where they got sniped. Isaac Tesla went to Detroit. That was the guy the Bills were interested in. At 69, Kyle Williams went. So I bet the Bills thought they were.
I don't know how much of a fit he was for the team, though.
He's a speed guy, gets open, separator, has some vertical, can play outside. I think they were definitely looking at him. I think if he's there at 72, they take him. I think sitting at 72, when pick 69 comes on the board, so 3 picks before you, and Kyle Williams and Isaac Tesla are there, I think go. Bean's thinking that he's going to get one of those.
One of the two,
They both go, and he kind of, I don't know, you don't want to say panic, because I think they still got good value, but so then he went Landon Jackson. So then pick 4, or round 4. Sorry, the Bills picked.
You think there was any?
109.
I'm gonna revert to a couple rounds earlier. You think there was any chance that when they they were obviously on the phone long before, but in round 2, when we traded up to 41, Burden went at 39. Chicago jumped in there. Or
No, I don't think so.
you don't think though? Okay.
No,
We're just throwing
I,
it out
I
there.
don't think wide receiver was on their
The
list
top
there.
there.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so the Bills picked at 109, and at 108, Dante Thornton went out of Tennessee, who they had some interest in, outside speed guy. I think that's a little rich, but he went there. Kymir Dyke went at 103 to Tennessee. So yeah, you had 103 and 108 wide receivers go. The Bills take Deion Walker, and then right after them, Arian Smith went from Georgia to the Jets, who the Bills were interested in. Again, I think that's a little rich for him. I think part of the problem is the wide receivers just went earlier than we thought. So that was round 4. Round 5, we picked at 170. So let's see what happened right around there. So Torrey Horton went at 166, which I think really hurt. I would guess that Bills would have taken him if he was there at 170.
Yeah, and then Lambert Smith went at 158. There's only 2 wide receivers drafted in this round. So those are 2 guys maybe that they were potentially
And
targeting.
the 6th, we had the first pick in the 6th, and we went Dorian Strong. And there really wasn't a wide receiver taken
I don't even see a wide receiver
at all in that round
until
Wester.
Baltimore took Wester, and then
LeJohntay Wester.
Jimmy Horn Jr. went from
Horn
to
Jr.
Panthers, and like that was
And then
a couple of these guys.
Tommy Mellett from
Yeah.
Montana State. I mean,
You're
there just
scraping
wasn't
the bottom
much
of the barrel
left
at this point.
Yeah. So I think wide receiver just went way earlier than they thought with guys they were interested in, and they were kind of left at the end. And so I'm just interested to see what they do now at that position. I don't think they go into the season with the 4 they have plus Caden Prather. Right. I don't see how they do. I think they got to do something there. It doesn't necessarily mean it's got to be a big move. There's still free agents available.
I think there's a couple moves that make sense, right? The first one is just sitting there. It's right. Amari Cooper, just bring it back.
Right.
You could tell that the chemistry was there with him and Josh, but then Cooper got hurt, and like that was kind of it.
That wrist injury really affected him. He could not separate after that.
Right. There are some other guys that are available. If you want to go through them real quick, we could. But like Keenan Allen's still out there.
Just slot.
Just doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
Let's see who else is unsigned right now. So Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, Deontay Johnson. Like if you could get his head in the right spot, man. We talked about this so long ago. Just don't think it's going to happen. DJ Chark's not a guy that I wouldn't mind, but like
don't know if that helps you, man.
I feel like he is at this point in his career. It's a poor man's version of who we just signed already. Blanking on the name right.
You got Elijah Moore still out there. He'd be an interesting flyer. Yeah. I think that's really it.
It is
it's Cooper, Elijah Moore. You're trading for somebody or waiting for somebody to get cut. But I just think you're obviously got to get more bodies. They did sign a couple undrafted free agents.
Yeah.
So we'll see if what materializes out of that. But yeah, I really you need someone who can come in. I don't know. I don't think they're going to go in with 4 wide receivers only. So is Shavers going to be the guy that steps up and is the 5th wide receiver in special teams? He does play some special teams. He did play some gunner last year. So yeah, we'll definitely find out with that. Is there anywhere else on the roster that you feel like is lacking or you could see them add?
One spot I was surprised they didn't address at all. And I think it was kind of like the offensive line I'm surprised we didn't address linebacker at all.
Yeah.
Health at the linebacker position is a concern for us every year. The fact we didn't add any youth to that is a little bit concerning to me. We're just kind of running it back with the same group of guys. Not that group of guys is a bad group of guys. Like the Bills have a great linebacking core. The issue is they just can't stay healthy from top to bottom. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
Dorian.
not too concerned with
I'm not concerned
because
about
I think you got Olafosio, who they really
Olafosio.
like,
Yeah,
and Dreesen, who I think they really like. And then I think Spectre, I think it goes behind those guys now, even though they really like Spectre and he's always hurt. But I think between Dorian, Milano, and Bernard, that's a pretty good three.
right. Like those three are great, but
And then
like
you have Andreessen and
yeah,
Olafosio behind him, who I think they really like. That gives you five. And then Specter's shown when he's healthy, he's at least serviceable.
yeah.
And so that gives you six. So I think you're all right, but you're right, though, as far as being thin.
I'm just surprised they didn't add competition to the position.
Yeah.
With 9 picks, we didn't even draft one.
Yeah, they
So
didn't with their undrafted free agents, but
yeah. So
again,
we'll see how that
many
goes.
how many of those
I think that's
actually
really
make?
the only spot. I mean, wide receiver is the glaring issue, or the glaring position we didn't touch. I guess the other one you kind of do with Jordan Hancock, with that being safety. I think a lot of people were calling for safety, but we just
Which I
didn't
think the
really.
Bills were always way more comfortable.
Right. I don't.
Um,
I never really saw it personally. I know there was a handful of people at the network that did. And
So I
can
just
get
looked,
behind
and they
it. I
didn't
just don't
even,
see it.
dude. They didn't even add a linebacker in their UDFA class.
Yeah. They're
So
just
they added
content.
3 safeties, though. So speaking of
Yeah.
safeties, they added Virginia Tech Keonta Jenkins, Central Arkansas safety Tamurian Wilson, and then New Hampshire safety, which I know a lot of people really like.
Super
Yeah,
traits
Wande
guy.
Owens. I think people
Yeah.
really are interested by him.
Physical,
Yeah,
long.
it was interesting though. They didn't add any linebackers, so they must be comfortable with what they got there. They did add 3 wide receivers though. They added Hale Presley from Baylor. I can't even say this guy's last name. So Kelly from Mississippi State. I'm not even gonna try. And then Stephen Gosnell from Virginia Tech. So we'll see if any of those shake out. But I don't think Bean's never really done with the roster. But I think if I was one area of the draft I didn't like was that they didn't address wide receiver a little earlier. They have a clear roster spot that they could have used on one, but I think overall I'd give the class like a B plus A minus. I think I really like the upside of guys and the value they got. And then they addressed their biggest needs, I think, which was corner and D line. From that perspective, I really liked it. I think they're deep now, and we'll see how the rotations shake out. What about you? What was your overall thought for the class?
I think it was kind of a typical Buffalo Bills class that we saw. I don't want to say last year, but maybe the year before that, and maybe even the one of that, where it's like we just went super high upside early, traits guys, big RAS score, length, size, and hope we develop them.
It does remind me of 2022. I think that's a good point.
It's worked out in the past, and then it's not worked out as of recent, but like.
Yeah.
I think it's a possibility to be a really good class. If you hit on 2 guys, it's a good class, in my opinion. If you hit on 3, it's a great class. And if you hit on more than 3, you've got a really, really good draft class.
I think the big thing, I think Sanders or Walker need to be like,
one has to hit.
it has to be like next to Ed, a foundational D tackle on this team for years to come. And then I think if Harrison is your CB2, and ends up being at least a serviceable to, a good CB2.
Right.
And I think this is a successful class, right?
I think if Landon Jackson can become a AJ replacement,
1,000%. If he's your AJ Epinesa replacement, I think that's a good pick for a third round D end. Yeah. Right. If he's anything above that, then that's a home run pick.
Right. Exactly. So
I think you got to put expectations on where these guys were taken, and you don't necessarily hit home runs on third round DNs. It's
right. And this wasn't exactly the draft class that was like absolutely stacked. Like this was the draft class that
sure.
You're getting good depth guys that you're gonna.
Yep.
They're not necessarily day one starters, but they're gonna be good guys that are gonna play out their rookie contracts, potentially a second contract after that.
Yeah, I think that's well said.
That's the goal, right?
Yeah. Yep. All right. Quick message from our sponsors, and then we will get right back into it.
For the best Italian food in Western New York, Elliott Apollo's, call 716-825-3675. The Lardon Construction Group.
Fubo TV, the official streaming service of Do Champions. FanDuel, the official sportsbook of Do Champions.
For all your summertime needs, beauty pools, as well as kayak pools.
CX Chronicles, your total customer solutions focused manager. W.GG, the official energy drink of Do Champions.
Hey, Sons of Erie, our artwork looks better on your walls. Hamburg Brewing, please visit our tap room on Boston State Road, Hamburg, New York. And finally,
Fat Boy Surf Club for all your surfing needs.
All right, so next up will be the Bills rookie minicamp. So the Bills rookie minicamp will be May 9th through the 12th in Orchard Park. So I'm sure you'll see a bunch of video coming out from that and, see the players running around. A lot of that is just to get them acclimated to the team, the locker room, get them fitted for gear, and just show them like what a practice looks like and a schedule. So that way when OTAs and everything get fired up, they are ready to go and they can hit the ground running. So that is May 9th through the 12th. The next date for the Bills is schedule release, which is May 14th, right? Is that right, Donnie? May 14th?
Yes, May 14th.
Did you see how they announced that during the draft?
That was okay. At one point, I'm looking at the television and I'm like, what is going on right now? I could not figure it out.
I thought they'd at least why didn't they just tease like one of the international games or something? But they just brought both those ladies out and then they just say, "Oh yeah, the schedule is May 14th release date."
I was just like, I could not figure out what was going on.
What's the next pick? Yeah, man, it was so clunky.
Yeah, how did I'm still flabbergasted by what that was. I mean, like it was just
There you go. Well done.
So we'll see how that goes. I mean, the Bills' schedule this year is certainly going to be interesting. It's not.
You think they'll get the Dublin game against Pittsburgh?
You're just hoping you can find a way to that game, is what you're trying to say. Aren't you?
I don't think my schedule is going to work out well for that.
Yeah.
I would hope, but there is rumor that the Bills are going to have an international game this year, and there is rumor that they might be this Dublin game.
I know that we get 9 home games this year, so if it is one of our home games, I think I'm okay with it. The Bills have a good international fan base.
If it's the Dublin game, it would be a road game because Pittsburgh is the home. Actually, it's not. It won't be a home game for an international game because they've already announced all the home teams for the international game.
Okay, so then by all means, like if that's a road game, it's not going to be a back-to-back. Maybe they incorporate a bye week into that. Like by all means, sure, send us over there.
Yeah, or they come off of like a Thursday game or something the week before.
Right, and I don't mind watching a football game at whatever time that's going to end up being at, by all means.
9:30 a.m.?
Yeah, chalk me up for that. So
yeah, I wouldn't hate it. I'd be mad if I couldn't go. I'd love to see the Bills in Dublin. Yeah. But yeah, it's the schedule is definitely going to be tough, but you never know that, right? Until the season comes, because teams you think are going to be good, injuries, whatnot. But that's May 14th. I mean,
look, we were, I think the Bills over/under line last year was either not 10.5. I think it was 10.5, or maybe it was 11.
But that was more to do with the departures than necessarily.
Right, I know. But at the end of the day, like we won 13 games, and it didn't matter. We really, the last game of the year shouldn't have.
Dude, it worked out great.
That was
great. The Patriots go from the 1 pick to the 4th pick. All right, so here's the offseason schedule that we were alluding to. So after rookie minicamp, which is the 9th through the 12th, the phase 2, I guess you want to call it, of OTAs is May 27th through the 29th. I believe that is just like they can run drills and stuff, and I even think they can do like 7-on-7, but there's no pads or anything like that. I don't think they can actually do like real formations. And then that third set of OTAs, the 2nd through the 3rd and the 5th, I think is where they can actually have a more normal practice. Again, I don't think there's no pads, but they can actually, I think, do formations and drills and stuff like that.
I don't think we get pads until
They don't until
until
actual camp,
yeah.
which is in like not even until like a couple of weeks into camp. So
Yeah.
mandatory mini camp is June 10th through the 12th, and that will be the last we'll see of a lot of the Bills until July camp. So end
It's
of
like
July.
late July. Yeah, late
Yeah.
July.
So with that news or the schedule, we will be taking a break here at Buffalo Blueprint. We will be taking a summer vacation a little bit. We both are you're in the middle of your move, and I will be moving this summer. So we're gonna take a little bit of a break this summer, and we will be
Yeah.
back before training
I don't
camp.
I don't know. Maybe
or right
maybe we'll
around
do a
training camp.
little schedule release special if it works out for our schedules.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind hopping on and talking about the schedule. So maybe we'll do that
Always a
in
fun.
a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're not going to be doing weekly here for a little while. But yeah, we really appreciate all of your support. There's over 150 people watching now, so thank you guys so much. And we're really excited for next year and talking to you guys about the schedule release for the network. Here's the schedule that we got right now for the network. No One to Blame's on Mondays right now, but they're going to be shifting around as well. That's our gambling show. Until the NFL season comes back, they'll be moving around a little bit and taking breaks depending on what's going on in the world of sports and what they want to talk about betting wise. But right now they have basketball and hockey. So
I'll jump in there real quick. I think
go ahead.
Neffy, Jesse, Neffy from No One to Blame, and I are kind of in talks of potentially starting up a little fantasy football dynasty summer podcast. Me and him are both pretty big into dynasty football, so we might start going through that a little bit for anyone in here that does fantasy football dynasty.
We got to set our draft date, man. Speaking of which,
I know we got to get to that. I've been so out of tune from fantasy football since the season ended and the move, and just planning a wedding. It's been a lot, but starting to look at it, get notifications to pay for the season. So I'm like, all right, I guess it's time to pay attention to dynasty football now.
Yeah. So be on the lookout for that if you're into fantasy football and dynasty football. We'll announce that on our socials. Coast to Coast still every Wednesday with Whittle and Beyond 716. Chasing Data Thursday nights. He's still doing his show, breaking down all the teams around the NFL, their off seasons. I'm sure he's got a lot to talk about with the draft, and he'll probably grade all the teams' drafts. So definitely check him out if you want to get familiar and learn about the other 31 teams in the NFL and their off seasons and what they're up to. He does a really good job breaking that all down, so we are prepared for the season. Saturdays we have Hockey Hotline with Matt Dygert and Beyond 716. They're going to be talking about the playoffs and obviously the Sabres missing the playoffs again, to no one's surprise, and talking about the off season there. And then Third and Manageable every Saturday night with Student Body Right and Matt Dygert. And if you missed it last night, they had a great episode with a bunch of really good guests, including Bud Carpenter. So definitely check them out. They always have a great show. A lot of times they're live at a restaurant with current and former Bills players. So check them out, Third and Manageable Saturday nights. And yeah, we really appreciate you guys joining us. So you got any last thoughts before we hop off on a shorter episode?
No, I just would say stay in tune at Do Champions on X or Twitter, whatever we call it nowadays. Also on Facebook, Instagram, Threads. I know we go live on Twitch as well for all of our streaming platforms. So any kind of Bills updates, just stay on there, and we'll get them to you. Besides that, I don't have too much more. I'm excited to see how this class develops.
Yeah, man, me too. I think the upside is what's really fun, and I do think that this sends a message though to McDermott and to the staff. Like, it's on you, man. The defense has got to get better. You have the pieces now, right, with free agency and now this draft class. The turnover on this defense is going to be massive. You're looking at probably 70% of this defense is turned over, and so yeah, you got to perform now. And so I do think this sends a clear message that we're going to take the defense more seriously. We expect results, and now it's just got to happen on the field. So I'm excited to see that, and go more into that direction, because I think we can all say that that's been the shortcoming the last couple years in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think the one thing you said there that's going to stand out is like the turnover on the defense. I mean, at defensive tackle, is it Ed and Daquan? Are those the only two guys that
Yeah,
are coming
yeah,
back?
Carter, but he was hurt.
Yeah,
So
he didn't play much of last year. So like, and actually, let's touch on Carter real quick. I know we had talked
yeah,
about it. Bean said they're looking to move him to the one tech. They're
yep.
going to ask him to put on some weight.
Yeah,
Kind
this
of
this
play
class, that's a really good point though, because this
Yeah.
class does kind of point to him as the spot that could be cut at some point.
Yeah.
Depending on what happens with Daquan. But yeah, they did say they want him to move over and gain weight. So what do you think that says about his future and what they think he can do?
So I think it's two things, when I heard about that. I think the first thing is like with the class that they drafted, I don't think that they see a spot for him as a 3 tech or 2 tech, whatever the spot they end up putting, in this defense is a 2 tech. Or I'm sorry, a 3 tech. So I don't foresee that role being there for him anymore. There's definitely a gaping hole at Daquan's backup. And it's not like Daquan plays every down. That just doesn't happen. Nobody on this defense or defensive line does. So I like the idea of moving them there. The Bills have had success with moving guys around positionally. They've done a pretty good job with that, with Benford being one of those guys that was kind of a safety coming in, and they moved him to corner, and look at what he developed into. The same thing goes for Dawson Knox has developed into a phenomenal blocking tight end where, that was not part of his skill set at all coming out of college. So they've asked some guys to do some things that they not necessarily were good at coming in out of college. So I like the idea. It could be that the writing is on the wall for him already, which would be unfortunate because
Third round pick.
Right, third round pick. Although, the other guy that's on the roster, Solomon, he's another guy we don't really know too much what's going to happen with him.
I think he's all right. I think it fits, the moves they made, especially like Landon Jackson, because stylistically they're very different, right? He's kind of your Vaughn, I don't want to say replacement, but, smaller, get around the edge, speed guy. And so, pass rush, I don't know if you want to say specialist, but that's what his skill set is getting after the passer. So, if that's your 50 end, I don't think that's, the end of the world. So, but it is interesting to see, like, when Hoyt comes back and
Ogunjobi comes back.
What is
like
the rotations going to look like? Yeah, are we going to run 11, 12 deep on the D line? Like, I don't know, man.
And I think that
good problem to have. But
I think up until this year, we've kind of known how the rotation was going to go. We've seen these guys, even when guys got hurt, the guys that they brought in, the free agents that they brought in, we knew what they were going to be. Jordan Phillips or Quentin Jefferson, like we knew what their roles were and what kind of players they were at this point in their career. So
it does make me think, though, that they're going to run some different fronts this year and be more multiple, because
I would not be surprised if Groot gets reduced inside, or we run a multiple front where we're,
I think it's going to be more like 5-man front, and or like you have like a Sam linebacker like we haven't done for a long time with like Hoyt or something, because the way this body,
like we could see some more 3-4 fronts out of this defense. It could get more multiple, especially with Hoyt. And even Landon
I think
Jackson.
I think it'd be more just like 5 down linemen would be interesting. But they're definitely getting some different body types in there, and the depth is, I mean, this is the best, I'd say the deepest D line that they've had, and and especially from a pass rush perspective that I've seen on the Bills under Bean and McDermott. Maybe top end they've been a little better, but I don't know, man. They're really deep.
Yeah, the one thing I'll definitely say is keep your expectations, where they should be for a rookie class, right? Like the only 2 guys we should really expect to see anything out of are Harrison and Sanders. Anything after that, if we can get,
I don't know.
even
I think Landon Jackson's floor
Landon
is
Jackson-
pretty high.
right.
And
But
then,
I mean, like,
and then Jackson Haas he's what he is. I don't think he's
Yeah.
going to develop anymore. So
Right, like,
you'll
I think
see at least contributions.
right. But I mean, like, as far as playing significant amount of snaps, I think it's Sanders, Hairston, and then maybe Landon Jackson. That's
Yeah.
it. Like, that's kind of how rookie draft classes go. Maybe a guy pops out of nowhere and ends up, being a good talent, but otherwise, just keep your expectations, under wraps, because it's pretty hard to hit on guys after the second round, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, you get 2 to 3 starters out of a class. You're
It's a
ecstatic.
good class. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right. Well, I guess you've talked us into doing some kind of schedule show here in a couple weeks. So,
I guess I did.
we'll do something. What is that? It comes out the 14th.
I don't even know what day of the week that is.
So that's a Wednesday, the 14th. So the 18th, May 18th, we'll do a show, and then we'll take a break. So check us out May 18th for the schedule release breakdown. Otherwise, have a good week, everybody. Go Bills, and we'll catch you next time.
Yes, sir. Go Bills.
Come on, man. Only on Do Champion Network.
Everything you need, nothing you don't. Some may like if you just won't. Everything you need, nothing you don't. Some may like if you just won't. Buffalo blueprint for analytics and new shit. Check pen in hand, mic in his hand. Welcome to the Buffalo blueprint. Everything you need. Everything you need. Everything you need, nothing you don't. Some may like if you just won't. Everything you need, nothing you don't. Some may like if you just won't. Buffalo blueprint for analytics and new shit. Check pen in hand, mic in his hand. Welcome to the Buffalo blueprint. Everything you need.